This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, August 16th. It is 4:01 p.m. We are for Public Works, and everybody acknowledges that the microphone is off of mute, so that means they will be able to hear us this time. We have here Trustee LaFever, Trustee McKinnon, myself. We've got Jimmy Johnson and Chad Insco as well. And there's this fancy button thing. So I'm going to see if this thing works. It's going to fly. She lied. I knew there was another button. All right, we're gonna wing it. So, Mary was hoping to be able to make it remotely, as was Sally. So we'll see if they get on shortly here. Chad, welcome back. This is our first public works meeting, I believe, with you back here with us. Oh, we have Sally. Hello, Sally. So I've changed the format of the agenda just slightly. And it's going to be even prettier for the next one now that we got the formatting working correctly. The first part are items that are present, and so we broke that down into 4 sections: legal, projects, purchases, and development. And then the second half are all old items that have been on there forever, and we just go, hey, is there anything in this area we want to talk about? If yes, we'll talk about it, and we can vote on it if it's on the agenda. If not, then we just skip it and move forward. So that being said, the first item on, actually, let's go ahead and keep going down then. Are there any disclosures of conflict of interest?
None that I'm aware. Well, maybe one, but it's probably minor, but.
If it comes to that time when you would like to.
Well, probably technically it's insignificant, but, when we do get into the Verizon thing, I am a shareholder, but pretty damn small one, so probably not significant, but.
That's fair. All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 17th?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, are there any changes, any corrections that need to be made?
Not that I recall.
Let's go ahead and take a roll call on that then. Mike?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
And Jeremy's yes as well, so that's approved. No one has signed up for public comment. Moving down to discussion with legal. Mary is not here yet, so I've not heard. She was hoping to get me an update. Have you guys heard anything new on the IGA with Wynn versus Sioux? No? Okay. So I will talk to her about that again and see if we can get something squared away there on that end. I have not heard anything on Four River Sanitation either, on the IGA 2. The third one here is the legal expenses for the easement and possible annexation for the water main with Church and Goodwin. I was just handed some paperwork here. Were you guys handed this earlier as well?
Got it electronically. We weren't handed it, but I will comment that Mary did call me regarding the same. And there's been correspondence back and forth from over the last several months regarding this. Trustee LaFever had done a little research that shown with the data he was able to gather through Winges that those 2 properties are paying village taxes. So the assumption at that point is that they are indeed annexed. Mary called me circling back around on this because there had been some discrepancy. Fairgraham thought that village personnel were going to be trying to acquire the easement, which is not the norm. So I re-forwarded to her the Fairgraham task order that said, I'll read it verbatim. Should an easement need to be created, Fairgraham will prepare the legal description and easements for the 2 affected parcels. It is assumed that Fairgraham will provide the easement exhibit and legal description to the village attorney for coordination with the residents for approval, execution, and recording of the documentation. The village board did approve all of that in theory. At the time the task order was created, based on memory, and the task order had to be created to find out if there was existing easement or if an easement would be necessary. We found out the existing utility easement is occupied and it would be most beneficial for the project to create a new easement for the water main. The job can still be done if we don't get the easement, but the best scenario is to try to get the easement. That broke down in translation. Mary was never tasked with it. I believe one of my last meetings previously that this was verbally committed that that's how it was supposed to happen. However, Mary called me and questioned how it was supposed to happen. And I said I would forward to her the task order that had that language because that's how I remembered it. And she said, okay, I'll get expense before the board of what it's gonna take for her to do it. So again, we got cut off because she had other clients to tend to, but that's where that project lies. Long story short, she is gathering the data that Fairgraham was to provide to her. They are doing it. Everybody's aware via email correspondence today that that is the progression that needed to happen for the easement acquisition.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
No.
And then number 4 here is the sidewalk driveway permitting. I meant to send you an email to remind you were going to.
Yeah, I dug, I think Chad, you may have all of this stuff. If not, this is all I pulled out of my files from conversations that we've had here and as well as community development. And, if there's anything that's needed, maybe we can just get the office to do it. But I have a copy of what I believe is the most recent revision of the village sidewalk reimbursement program. If we continue that way or we do something different, I've got a 2017 revision of a driveway application cut curb, which I don't know whether it's being used or not. Then I've also got, I think Chad probably pulled these out over time. You got an application that's used by Freeport for when they're cutting their curbs. I've got another ordinance that maybe was good for, some draft stuff out of Champaign. And then I've got the Village of Winnebago ordinance number 29, number 105, 75-1, and 02-08 that all have something to do with information regarding curbs throughout our history, including way back when they were made out of wood. So whether it's, Chad, if you want to take those and make sure that you got everything up to date, and I think you may have copies of these, maybe you got other copies, and then maybe get the office to scan them and get them to all of us so we know where we're going. And I guess ultimately our objective is to try to take the best of what we have and what we need to do and try to update our ordinances or make it as efficient as we can. And
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, we funded some of the sidewalk fund this year.
Yeah, it was a budgeted amount. It was the first time that it's been budgeted to this endeavor, and the board is behind it in theory. It's just up to this committee to present and request for the ordinance. So I know I had spoke in the very recent past that wanted to see this get brought back up to the front burner, and we need to get it done. So I think that what Trustee McKinnon just said is what shall be done. I'll take and run through it. If any of the other trustees have it and want a red line or anything, get the data coming right away so that we can try to get it in the September and October meetings and get our ordinance set.
Perfect.
To refresh my memory here, was that gonna be like a shared cost with the residents, or is this all of us?
I believe the intention from the mayor, from education he's been gaining through IML and others, is that recent litigation puts the onus on the village.
Okay.
And that the way the ordinance is most likely gonna be drafted is going to be that it's village funded. It's
Okay.
not a
I know we
shared.
talked a little about this
but-
morning, I just kinda, that was towards the last 30 seconds.
The caveat to that was there's only so much funds, so
Yep.
some of the conversation we had is if people wanted to be participants to stretch the dollars, they could share the cost and we could stretch the dollars.
That's where I guess there's certain neighborhoods I could see us stretching the cost. If you go down to the neighborhoods that already have Greenlee, Rush Farms, the ones that actually have sidewalks that were, the properties were built, I can see us doing a shared cost in the future, just because those have been established. I would hate to have a shared cost for parts of town where there is no sidewalks. You probably, I don't think we would disagree with that.
Well, that's the intent of the.
So I didn't know, I mean, if we pay for it all front, how many feet do you think you could do with that $25,000?
Well, it's,
not
going
very much.
price is about $10 a square foot, so.
Not quite.
Not much,
No, not really.
No,
I mean,
not much.
well, and I guess the trick comes in and whatever, as far as big, I mean, there's one thing about repairing sidewalks. There's
Mhm.
another thing about, putting in sidewalks where sidewalks have never been.
Correct.
And that's where whether it's a grant or whatever, and if part of because again, the other part about it is, where do you even begin? There's a lot of engineering really figured out to put them, and then, a lot of those areas, you don't have any curbing and you don't, so.
the intent of this project is replacement.
Right, fix existing.
And the permit requirements of somebody putting them in. And I do,
I
believe
I haven't read it yet, but make sure that, I guess that's in there.
Yeah. the intent is for replacement, so.
Whatever, those where they actually had existing sidewalks that were good, some in decent shape, because I know there's one old one where it's all busted up,
Mhm.
but the driveway's a foot taller than the sidewalk. And I don't expect, that's not gonna, to me, that's like, okay, might as well not say there's a sidewalk.
Mhm.
And you've also got some other areas, I mean, obviously you gotta try to, 80-20, try to get it to apply to 80%, but you've also got lots of areas where, people have, taken it upon themselves and, paved a portion of the utility easement to extend, driveways and, all kinds of stuff that goes with it or whatever, it makes it a little bit challenging on some of that stuff, but, and there was something I was gonna say that just escaped me, if I can give myself a second to think about it here. It left me or whatever, but yeah, get everything, I know what I was gonna say is also we just need to make sure that, we've got the right language in there when, things are being repaired, that it's being repaired up to current code or what was put in place at the time, because right now the current width requirement is higher than what Rush Farms or Greenlee is, and it'd be pretty silly if you gotta put a 4-inch wider sidewalk in. So, you put them back into where they had been, when they're putting those in. Yeah,
Mhm.
look a little silly. If you gotta do the whole, block or something, that may be a different story, but,
One square is 4 inches wider than the next square. Hopscotch.
Well, we will work all those angles and try to get something in front of the next Public Works Committee meeting.
Perfect. Moving on to projects, 2023 road project. Chad, you had mentioned something about wanting to discuss their work.
So where we are with the project, Jimmy has briefed me and we've gone over it quite a little bit. And on Friday of my first week back last week, we went and met with the engineering, because this was an MFT project. There's some certain criteria that goes with that. There was some quality and workmanship that isn't quite satisfactory. It sometimes happens. Jimmy brought it up to their attention right away. Obviously, it's not something that you can't see it during the process. It comes at the end of paving, some lack of crown, some drivability, and quality assurance, quality compliance would come into the discussion. We had this situation another time with the same contractor, and it did result in us retaining a majority of the retainage. And this is one of the reasons why we have the 10% retainage. So we're in talks with engineering, and most likely it'll come before the next board meeting, that we're considering, and this will probably be somewhat back and forth, with possibility of compromise, retaining the majority of the retainage. Luke from Fairgram was looking up to see what the verbiage is. of how to address it when, you know, it was a not quite qualitative or not satisfactory job. So we didn't get that definition yet. It was just last Friday that Jim and I met with Fair Grant regarding this. We let them know our opinion was, oftentimes the contractor's gonna try to come back and fix it. With asphalt of a straight run of pavement, that means they have to cut it out and patch it. And a patch is a patch is a patch. The patch is never gonna be as good as what you're dealing with right now, unless you had a blowout or a substrate failure. We didn't have a substrate failure. We have a drivability issue. I mean, you know,
Where's this at?
Phillips,
Phillips doesn't drive very good.
Oh, Hoppy, is it?
And there's a couple of bumps right at the intersection. And then there's very little crown on Greenleaf Court.
the
There's one
cul-de-sac.
spot that just kind of
Did they
holds.
do a full mill out there on that,
Yeah.
or?
They did. And
They
now-
did not on Phillips.
And now, you know, if they go back, you're just gonna have two more seams and that's the first failure.
Yeah, that'd be.
So it's almost like,
So our request from the department is to withhold funds for the unsatisfactory work. In our conversations, we kind of have a basement number on that, but we prefer that to come before the board as we work through the process. Because knowing full well that the contractor, either they have rights to in the contract, they may have the right to try to fix it, and then we're gonna be in a negotiating compliance situation. They're gonna have some argument on their side that, hey, we're not building a new road, we're doing a repair. We did a mill and fill, and they'll say, hey, you didn't have staking or what have you, so this is what you get. So those conversations are going to be going on between now and the next board meeting, but right.
We didn't have puddling before.
Right.
Now we have puddling after.
So, yes, and that's, you know, one of Jim's statements that makes him sick is the idea that you look to the left, to the east, a road that been there for 7 or 8 years, we did the same practice, there's no puddling. And the brand new black and shiny road has puddling,
So you
which,
took pictures of it?
yeah, and to the contractor's benefit, they have come during the QA/QC. So we typically punch lists just for cleaning, in this style, you don't have landscape stuff. They've come, they've witnessed it. And we have a smart level, you know, a digital level that tells you there is no crown.
No, that pictures from 2 days ago would have been,
Yeah,
you know,
And-
afterwards.
and that's summertime ponding. February ponding is much worse.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Freezing rain ponding, yes.
so we're, you know, not overwhelmingly impressed. And the same exact contractor, this does go with low bid situations sometimes. They've done adequate work at times, but this was not their best job. They tried to get a lot done in a day. Who knows what else? They're gonna have some excuses, but long story short, from our department, we're going to be recommending, you know, withholding a large portion of the retainage. And again, I don't really wanna talk about the numbers in here, you know, anybody can look and see that retainage is 10%. So that's presumably the max in this realm. If there was a failure, if there was pavement failure, we have a better leg to stand on. Quality, just due to quality and workmanship, it's not as black and white. Did we get new blacktop 2.5 inches deep? Yes. Does it drive good? No. So that's where we are with that, and sorry, it's alarms. So that's what's coming.
Hey, Mary, how's it going?
I'm fine.
Things happen, especially when you make a late change from one day to
Yeah.
another.
I never talked so fast in my life.
All right. Mary, we went through your portion already. We're gonna finish up the projects there, and then when you get a breath, if you want, we can jump back up and cover down anything that we missed. If that works for you.
That's fine, whenever.
All right. Moving on to the second item then under projects is the IEPA loan funding for the water main updates.
Just real quick on that's a work in progress. That's just goes a cycle with the EPA, with the calendar. Everything's going along. We have no announcement, we have no denial. It's just going along. We'll let this committee know. It's kind of down there in item C. We are asking Fairgram to come to us with a project plan that was outside of that scope. It was a supplement to that scope. It would be a project that we would be doing on our own, aside from that project, but it's kind of in the same area, complement that project. And that's the Clayton Court. We're gonna call it the Clayton Court Loop.
Gotcha. All right. Moving on number 3 here. Anything new with the geospatial?
They are working right along. They have a lot of the work done. They were trying to get a meeting together this week. It didn't get solidified. Too many people had varying agendas, but we will be getting briefed from the county very soon. But that project our portion is basically done, is the data that Jim was able to give me.
I love it. And the last one, we discussed this at the board meeting, and I did see some traffic as well for the school sidewalk grant opportunity.
Yeah, it's called the Safe Routes to Schools. The grant doesn't get opened every year. It's not able to be put in for every year. This year it is open. We have a project that we discussed at the board meeting back in started in 2012, 13. We did a huge look because we had some success rates with grant opportunities, and the engineering staff of the time told us it would be a really good grant for us to go after. So we did the design. We did get the cooperation at one level, and it was put to a vote to put village funds at that time toward the project, and that vote did not carry, so we did not receive the grant. We've kept it, which was a recommendation from engineering, and I have also reissued that Safe Routes to Schools grant to R1 on 2 separate occasions where they've asked for it. They said, hey, we're aware that you had this work done. People know that Winnebago had requested this grant. We want to keep it on the burners. Just, that's some loose information. So we had the opportunity to go after that grant again. The board chose to go after that grant. So just letting everybody know, it's construction, it's fluid, things can change, but the over-under is there's primary routes near the schools, to and from the schools, crossing our major roadways that were considered in that original grant. Now that the village is choosing to move forward, we can adapt the scope a little bit between the committee, our department, and the engineering, and we can tighten it up. There is criteria. It's got to be routing pedestrians toward and from the schools to their homes and recreation and things of the like. So some of the community isn't going to be eligible for that grant. Some of the places that don't need direct route to the school or don't have fluid sidewalk ability won't be eligible for that grant, but it's still a very good grant to go after. And the way I understand it, the board is interested in investing the funds, and the mayor actually signed the task order today. So,
yeah.
But just again, I want to reiterate, and when we first looked at this, there was 3 or 4 months of work that went into it. things have changed since then. Some routes are completed, some are started, but we'll, now that we know we're going after it, we'll begin to work on adjusting the scope.
All right. Anything else in the projects?
I think that's it, Jim.
That's it.
That's it for right now.
All right, Mayor, we'll jump back up to legal here, and we'll
Okay.
start with the IGA with Winder Sioux.
Okay, and I don't really have anything for that as far as any major update. So I guess I didn't have that on my main list from what you had given me. I know it was there, but my main list dealt with Four Rivers and the approval of the legal expense. So I will have to look back on the IGA, just very honestly, because I didn't have time to look at much before today's meeting.
No, no problem at all. How about Four Rivers?
Four Rivers, we're tweaking the deed, Attorney Fitzgerald and I, as far as making sure we got the language done. So thinking all should be in place by the time of our next meeting, as far as closing.
Mary, I just want to chime in on that. I know the original inception of that IGA, it's very imperative that we have easement language for water main. And when
Okay.
we originally, I know this is probably getting over a year old now, but when we originally were talking to them, we were pretty much after a blanket easement for an area so that we could run a water main over to Clayton Court. And because this wasn't done, is part of the reason why we didn't include that water main looping in the IEPA loan schedule. I just want to highlight that it's very important that we are receiving an easement with the sale of that property.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
just want to bring that back around full circle. It always has been real important, and I would hate for that to have gotten lost in the legalese along the
Okay.
way.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Item number 3, Mary, Chad told us about as well, and Kelly had just delivered this paperwork, and she sent it to
Okay.
you as well. My understanding is that you were collecting the data from Fairgram to create a new easement for this area. Is that what you're tracking as well?
Correct, because when I had talked with Seth, they were needing, I think he realized they were needing to get the legal descriptions to us. And I think he was a little confused. Chad probably went over that, thinking what Chad was going to do versus what anyone else was going to do. But Chad and I have spoken, and it's so that, once I get the legal description and the easement form from Fairgram, that's when I go to the homeowners. The other thing is that I'd been working on with Kelly is that I know that there was discussion, and I was trying to get confirmation of what had been determined about the 624 South Church Street and 620 South Goodling in reference to annexation. I was trying to get the documentation that substantiated it, not just not just Wingis information. And I was able to confirm that for and let me get the address here because we kept going back and forth. For the Goodling Street, 620 South Goodling Street, that definitely has been annexed some time ago into the village. And I had given Kelly the ordinance number. I don't have it in front of me. As to the 624 South Church Street, I think it probably came in via ordinance 87-1. That was and the reason I'm thinking that, even though it doesn't give the description quite the same way, is because when I went to look at the deeds, it mentioned, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this name, but it was the Protulskis, and I remembered there had been a Protulski annexation back in the late 80s, and I believe that's the property, but that's what we're just confirming. She did talk about which properties were served and which were not served, but sometimes there are mistakes in that regard as far as who's getting what services. So we were just trying to confirm with the, to make sure that they were already annexed, because remember, we talked here about easement and possible annexation. But obviously, for ones that are already annexed, we don't have to take any annexation action.
All right. Any additional comments on that? Awesome. Thank you, Mary.
Yes.
Jumping down to purchases. Where are we at on this dump truck?
It's in
Is it like here?
tomorrow. As soon as Sally will be in tomorrow morning and sign the check, I guess, and we can go pick it up. I think it's gonna be ready to be picked up either late tomorrow or Friday morning. But it is actually in Freeport, so.
Is that with equipment installed, or then you just gotta shuttle it over?
Yeah, that's gotta go to Monroe, so. But they finally built it, so.
At least Chevy did their part.
Yeah.
2 years later.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, but we also received another truck yesterday, or we got an invoice for the other truck?
No, that's
No,
this
that's
one.
this
That is this one.
That is the dump truck. So there's not a small pickup truck?
No,
Right,
it's
it's small
a
dump.
small dump truck.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Just not one of the big dump trucks.
Right,
Right.
Wingo.
And then with the sale of the other one, are we waiting until the equipment is installed and we have it in our possession before we even think about that?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, because it could be,
Who knows?
they'll tell you 4 to 6 weeks and it could be.
The good news though, that equipment is there.
Yeah, this truck said 3 years ago we were gonna get it too.
Right, the equipment is there, so, or that's what we've been being told.
Okay. Any other large equipment we're waiting on? Oop, perfect. Moving on to the water meters.
It's, much the same, did want to highlight with Sue being off, due to medical. The rest of the office isn't up to speed with training for the data for us to go do the work orders to put water meters in. Albeit we were only allocated 12 this month. But I believe Sue's gonna come in and do a little work. So she's been in communication with Cody. So we're gonna try real hard to get those 12 in next week. But the supply chain issue still exists for those meters. We continue to hear it's going to get better. We've stayed ahead of it. Showed Adam today, we're at 688 installed, and we still gotta do like 550. So getting 12 at a time, the budget's not gonna suffer. 'Cause I don't think we're gonna get 500 before the close of the year, but we really did expect, best case scenario, to get down to about 250 to have to do next year. So we're dealing with the supply chain. We're very fortunately, we're keeping ahead of the succession of the old meters.
Yes.
We're not going months where we don't have stock, but we did flirt with that early in the year. We had 1 month where we had 16 that basically had stopped transmitting and we had none to put in. So we just hope that's not gonna happen, but we've made the decision, it's doing us no good to hold some on hand. We're changing out the oldest ones. We kind of did an idea when we're doing the radio read, the ones that are giving us a little bit of a hassle. So we prioritize those, and Sue was doing a really good job of that in the office. So I think when Sue's back in full force, we're just hoping that we're getting 24 or more a month when she's back. And then likewise, with new personnel in the office, I would recommend that at the 3 to 6 month term, that we get the meter folks in here and we invest in the training so that everything's being entered right and we continue to operate seamlessly. And just to please the committee, Sue was never offered the formal training. She got secondhand training, and the secondhand training wasn't as stellar as the firsthand training. she's doing everything fine to our knowledge, but as we do the final, push there, it'd be really nice to make sure we're on point with doing everything appropriately.
Probably relatively insignificant in the whole purpose, but I was cleaning up some paperwork or whatever. You're welcome to repurpose this.
All right. Yeah, we just talked to Rachel, and she's got the data on the website when it goes off for folks to enroll in the Beacon.
All right. And Sally did make a note here that with the updated purchasing policy, we do not need to sign each invoice going forward. So I assume that means that the invoices are less than 5,000,
Okay.
which means you don't have to wait for us to, you
Right.
can just get it moved forward.
Very good.
All right. Next item is a construction funding report. Sally did send that to us somewhere, I'd assume email. I saw it.
I have one in print if you need it.
Yeah, it came yesterday evening.
There it is. Sally, anything that you want to point out on this?
Oh, I'm locked out. Sorry. No, business as usual. Unless there are questions.
Hearing none, I think we're good. Thank you. And joys of technology here, it's not all in front of you anymore. Moving on to development and miscellaneous, and there's nothing there. So anything in the old business section, which was not called old business on this one because of the formatting, it was calling changes to the agenda or something of that nature. Under legal projects, purchasing or development that you guys would like to bring up and discuss. All right, hearing none. Any employee input? Should not already provided?
Glad to be back.
Outstanding. Any new business?
Yes,
Go ahead.
got a few. We kind of touched base on it a little bit earlier today. Kind of hindsight, me and Chad were together for, 3 hours this morning, from like 6:15 to 9-ish. Gave me a little tour, some stuff I haven't seen yet. We touched bases on employee job descriptions. I think I don't know who's in charge of updating those, if that's us as a committee, or if it's Chad. I don't know on whose responsibility that is, but some of them seem pretty out of whack for what our employees are doing. They don't line up, they don't jive. You got a water assistant, there's supposed to be a water director. He's the water director, he's also the public works director. Why do we have two job titles? There's a water assistant. Nothing that really jives for what public works employees do as a whole. So I think those need to get revamped, because I ran into this as I'm working on the step pay stuff. That will come up in our admin meeting. And then another one I have wrote down here is we missed the water operator training. I need to talk to him. The class actually started Monday, so they must have pushed the schedule all back 2 weeks ago. Classes started Monday, so we missed it for this semester. I would like to put that on the radar and have it for the budget for next year. $300 again, virtual. I think that's pretty low cost to get our employees at least the certification and training on it.
And I'm sorry, how often does this occur? Once a
At least on SIU, it appears to be one semester. I think Chad said there might be other avenues possibly for this.
But we're currently looking for spring semester.
So it'll be January, but like I said, we'll have to keep an eye on their class roster. Hopefully we can get on an email list or communication with them, hey, get a phone call, hey, we're starting class here next week, what do you got? Boom.
Okay.
I'll expect that sometime early January, what it looks like. Budgetary items, I don't know if they're getting into the budget season, if Chad had anything big you want to put in next year's, or if that's next meeting, I don't know where we are with that.
Yeah, I'll be bringing it to next meeting, and I'm guessing we'll be getting our blank budget worksheets pretty soon.
Okay. One thing I would like to see on there is a 5-year outlook on new public works garage. I don't know if you guys have been down there at all in the last year or two. I think we have a huge safety and health hazard at that facility. And just in general, with critters underneath the back, trip hazards. It's the age of the building, you know, it's hodgepodge. I'd like to see in the next 5 years, we actually get something substantial for them. I know we've been talking for the last few years on getting my brain right now, what it is.
Maintenance bay.
Huh?
Maintenance bay?
Not a maintenance bay, a whole outlook for the entire village.
Strategic plan.
Strategic, we've been talking for the last 2 years about doing a strategic planning. That's not obviously gonna happen, so let's start working on our own. The public works strategic planning. My big thing I see is 5 years from now, we get some type of a new major facility, because public works is not going away. And obviously we need to build it for today, we also need to plan 50 years from now. Otherwise, you're gonna be piecemealing something together 50 years from now.
Well, and I would agree. I know Chad and Jimmy, you guys have been working on the maintenance bay with the hail damage. And I know we put that to a side, we were bringing it back probably at that next meeting. Would you suggest, and we could discuss this later, but would you suggest that we get the maintenance bay built with the funds that we have? Because otherwise, again, this is a great plan and we do need to make this happen. If it is a 5-year plan, it takes us 5 years to do this, that's 5 more years without the maintenance bay or anything else that we've had, that we currently have the funding for. So would you, I guess, the big question, do you want to still move forward with the maintenance bay project?
So short answer is yes, I want to move forward with the maintenance bay project. But the second part of that answer, understanding that the board wants to have a city administrator, I have no issue with letting the city administrator get hired and try to help us put a financial plan together. Because I'm not going to deny that a $300,000 maintenance bay is kind of a bare bones project. Duran's building a $2 million facility. That's too much for a town of 3,000 people. I do advocate and say that the Public Works Department is no different than a fire department. We're the first responders. Any storm, any natural disaster, the other first responders can't do their work without the support of the others. The police needs the fire needs the police and fire need public works needs police and fire. Typically, when you go through an emergent situation, if you get all of the literature I get, everybody ends up at the public works garage. Why? Because it's typically built well. It's got generator backup, and it's got the big trucks and the equipment that's necessary to charge cell phones and radios and things of that nature. So I know I've fought or lobbied very aggressively that when we got that money, that I thought for around $200,000 we could build a wash bay. I very much appreciate where Adam's going, that we need to do something. And it needs to be a big picture view.
It pretty much needs to be knocked over and start fresh. I get my feeling on it, pole barn's great. To me, that's not a sturdy enough structure for the village. It's an investment. I'm thinking like a nice steel truss type building where it's not going anywhere. This is a facility, this is not.
We need a high ceiling so we can raise the dump boxes.
Pole barns are great, but there's a reason why they're pole barns.
Well,
They're cheap, farmers can get them up and whatnot.
I'm not gonna voice what I'm saying to be argumentative. We were trying to live within what the
Absolutely,
means
which
are, and maybe the means are separate, and
I agree, I think everybody can appreciate that. It's just, I'm looking at a growing community, hopefully in the next 10 years and whatnot.
Any idea where Duran got all that funding? Was it some type of a grant or any idea what the funding is?
I would like to look at possibly bonds, some type of a loan.
I do not know. I can find out for sure.
Yeah, well, it's just something to understand because obviously.
$2 million is a hefty investment, and Duran's police department, I think, is full-time of 1.75, maybe 2, and Public Works is full-time of 2. So, and their mileage and everything is much less. But
does the police department use that garage as well?
I do not know the answer to that.
Because that's something too, is, the police department's been asking for a new garage.
Well, I think that whole.
Why are we gonna build 3 garages?
I think if you're looking at an overall plan, and yes, it all gets incorporated into it. Now, part of it may be too, with the right design, it may be built in phases, but all designed to be one integral unit,
Correct, which I think most people would be in favor, we're not made of money, we all know that, but.
Well, that's, again, I'm gonna say the 2 things that I have to say. One, I know there's clear and present danger in the facility,
It's
as do other people. So my job is to share that. And 2, we have over $2 million of inland marina. When you take all of our tooling, our heavy equipment, our trailers, our warehousing of our copper and water
It
products,
should be sprinklered just because of the equipment we have,
we have that. So my job is to continue to make everyone aware. And then secondly, our department, all of our staffers like to do a good job of keeping the equipment clean, salt-free, longevity. We are not in a safe environment to do that. That's clear and present as well. So now we're in a spot. Now, I'm a realist, as I've always been, and I understand the village is going forward with a city administrator that's gonna possibly help make these decisions. And I've had these conversations before of saying, okay, we're liquid to the degree of $250,000. We can find the other 50. Again, this is arbitrary speak. Can we build a wash bay for 300,000 and heat it? Sprinkle it? No. But can we build it and heat it and insulate it? Yes.
The problem
And
is,
can it be a wash
we
bay?
don't technically have to ask for a variance from the fire department, because all commercial
Right.
structures gotta have a sprinkler system.
And again,
So technically, we would need a sprinkler system in that whole barn.
And again, I'm just arbitrarily speaking at this point right now, that's one avenue. And the other is to say, okay, instead of 300,000 liquid, we go forward with a conceptual plan and decide what we want our payment to be, and we get a loan and we go through it. But everyone at this table does know an aggressive schedule, that's probably 2 years out. That's
why I
not,
got like the 5-year plan. I think
that's
it's
not unreasonable. That's the points here. I know that I've talked about when I got rehired as I am, that would be one of my priorities, is trying to get us a human health and safe environment to do our job. So that's where it is. Not prepared, being as it came in under new business tonight, but that, no offense, it's just, I'm not any better prepared
No.
than that.
I was more bringing to their attention, I don't know when the last time they've been down there. All I know is I walked in there and I saw trip hazards, I saw fire safety hazards, just health in general. They're eating their lunch in the truck bag. Welding goes on in there, exhausts are in there, when the doors are closed in winter time. That to me is not a health and safety work environment we're providing our employees. That should be something on our radar in the near future as a village, provide for our employees. And to support them wherever they gotta go.
Good point.
Yep, and my intention, coming back when we wrapped up a couple other things, was to get pricing from the vendors of constructing a facility. So we're all ears. They're both right here. And, I'd like to collectively come up with a decision with it as well, but appreciate Adam bringing it up. And again, I wasn't better prepared for it tonight. So.
And I had that tour back in May, so it was well before this morning.
All right. Any other new business? All right. Hearing none, moving on. Is there any need for executive session? Okay, let's get on to our next meeting dates then. We did this in finance and I really liked it. If we can plan out through December, just so we get all those, and of course with you guys, it's going to greatly change as we get closer to December, but,
It's always good to have it on there, because you can then work around things that are discretionary, and if you have a storm event or something, we understand it's gotta be changed.
the other question, because of when we met for this, it's going to be 3.5 weeks to the next board meeting. Which is not the best time for, you guys say the pricing you need it done now, and then we have to wait the entire time. So would it be better if we were right before the board meetings instead of right after?
Well, it doesn't, the biggest thing about there is they're trying to move things up or whatever, so they have this stuff on there. So as long as we don't have a lot of big things that are gonna be needed to be presented to the board, if you wanna at least keep moving things along, as I say, if you think it's gonna take 2 meetings of Public Works before something is ready to go to the board, it really doesn't matter when you have those meetings, but if it's something that needs to be prepared for the board, they're looking for 2 weeks' notice on that. I mean, and again, that's the target. If something comes up, they can deal with it. They just don't want everything coming up 3-4 days before the meeting.
So,
I don't know the renovation schedule yet, Jeremy.
well, we'll throw them in and see what happens. If they're all-
I like that.
We are currently in August,
Yes,
so,
for another 2 weeks.
what was it?
For another 2 weeks, we
Yes.
still are.
So we could do one for 2 weeks prior, we could do August 29th, that Tuesday.
So 2 weeks from now, no, I'm unavailable the 29th.
Yeah, 29th is not a good day.
I didn't like that day anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Just naming days that ended Y right now.
How about,
AY.
how about Thursday the 31st?
Yes.
I don't know yet. There's a chance. There's a
This
chance
is a
that we got.
community development meeting at 4 on the
Oh,
31st.
those jerks.
At 4?
Yeah,
Might get 4. I have it at 6.
I don't see it on the calendar at all.
Well, it must have came out today. We could do the 30th.
Wednesday, I don't think I could do Wednesday, so I didn't bring it up. I could do Wednesday the 30th.
I may be out of town, but it would be on business, which does allow me to participate remotely.
All right. I could do as early as 17.
5?
Yes.
I was hoping for like 4.
I have practice till 4:30.
I'm fine with $1,700.
Okay. So we're gonna go August 30th.
Can you send those out on the calendar, invites, sir?
Maybe. And then let's get, so that'll be 2 weeks prior. So 2 weeks prior to the one before, after that. September 20,
Hang on, let me finish getting this one in here.
I typed them in, then I put them in later, so the one that was,
9:20?
no.
No.
I got a cross country meet that day. 29, 26, or 28.
Something else is happening on 28.
I got the 26th, or the 29th, Friday the 29th, or Tuesday the 26th. Or the 27th, but you said you're busy the 27th.
I have a finance meeting at 5:30 on the 27th.
We could do ours at 4 o'clock.
I have practice till 4:30.
26. 26.
26, work for everybody?
I may be out of town, but again, it's work related, so I schedule it what fits in and I will join in if I can, and at least I'm allowed to participate.
Are you ever in town?
Yeah.
Well,
Sounds like you work a lot.
What time?
17.
Just, things are just hitting at the wrong weeks.
The week prior, I got nothing, so.
We could do something the week prior if we wanted to instead, like the 18th or the 19th. IML is 21, 22. I don't know if that's gonna impact quite a few people.
Yeah, I'm unavailable that entire week.
Oh, I just said you.
Yeah, I got nothing
A week before I'm on vacation, so.
All right, so then we're going down here. Do we know when we're doing Halloween this year? We're still doing Tuesday night? It won't be on Monday regardless, right? How about Monday, October 30th?
I don't even want to hear you say that day.
Why, the 30th?
I don't want it to be October. I want it to be
I'm good
July.
with the Monday, the 30th.
Yes, I should be also.
Same, 5 o'clock.
The 30th. I could actually do earlier than that, cross country's done by then.
Alright.
You can go 4 o'clock?
Sure. You want like teacher institute or anything like that?
I got parent teacher conferences the whole rest of that week, so I couldn't, this was the only day that was good.
It's not too often we get 5 Mondays, so that's a freebie because I got something on the 4th Monday, I got something on the 2nd Monday, I got the 5th month. They don't happen too often.
All right, November 27 or 28?
I think that's Thanksgiving.
No, it's the week prior, it's
Oh.
Thanksgiving, 22 or 23 is Thanksgiving.
I might still be celebrating.
Fair enough. Well, 27, 28, or December 1st.
I would say what'd you say?
Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, or Friday.
I would say Tuesday's probably good. I don't have anything
Tuesday the 24th, you said?
28th.
28.
Friday is the 24th.
I would scroll up to that.
So November 28th. That one I could do at 16 as well.
I am only available the 28th.
Of course you are. What about the 27th or the 29th? I gotta finance at 5:30. I can do
I have the 29th
available or booked.
available.
I'm available at 29.
Let's go the 29th at 4 then.
We're still in November?
Yes.
Yeah, we just moved it today.
Alright,
That's gonna be a lot I got a public works and then finance. That'll be a fun day.
yeah. I mean,
Especially around budget time.
Yeah. And then we'll, I say we'll stop there because
Yeah.
your world's gonna be chaos.
Well, not only that, but once you get the holidays coming up.
It's gonna be crazy. Yep. Okay, so we got our next 4 at least.
Nice job,
By
everybody.
that time, we can look at it and we may not need a public works meeting in that month.
Sure.
Others you're gonna look at it and realize I'm not gonna be there. That's
May not involve me any at that point anyway, so.
You said January.
All right, I would like to entertain a motion to
Send the
adjourn.
minutes.
I'll make that motion.
All right, can I get a second?
Sure.
All right, all in favor?
Just ask.
Aye. All opposed? And that's it at 4:58.
Good
Thank you
job.
very much. And that is the meeting.
Okay, see you later.